Hey everyone, this is Adam Sellers with the Queen City Sellers team, and I'm really excited today to bring in Angela Pope to talk a little bit about vacations, but also finally named our episode. So we're going to call this Behind the Key.
Love it.
So it'll go great with our Queen City Sellers, let us be your key to the city. So we're going to be bringing businesses behind the key and helping everyone figure out what brings the key and giving them access to the business. So Angela, I'm really excited to have you here today with how do we say, give me a little bit about your business name and make sure I say it right.
Sure. Well, thank you first for having me, Adam. Awesome to be with you today. And the business is a franchise, Dream Vacations, but locally known as Go Vacay Your Way. And really that came about because I'm a traveler myself and I can get a lot done. And nobody wants to take a vacation necessarily like I do personally. So I thought, it's about your vacation. It's how you want a vacation, whether you're going to the Caribbean, whether you're going to Europe, Asia, it's really about you.
Yeah, and I'm excited. We have one of those vacations coming up in May, which I cannot wait for. So that Disney cruise is going to be exciting. So, we'll jump right into it a little bit now that we know a little bit about your business and start to kind of learn a little bit about you. And then we'll talk a little bit more about what your experiences is and how you deliver that vacation experience for your clients. Why travel and why dream vacations? Like what made that be an important alignment for you?
Yeah. So why travel? Travel changes people. It really does. I mean, when you get out of your own backyard, and even if it's camping, right? When you have kids. Honestly, one of the upcoming trips I have is a Disney World vacation. And the folks recently adopted kids, and they're staying in their RV for 14 days, 5 days in the park. So why travel? Because I say, history, happy events, and really heritage. I've got sisters that are traveling to France and to Ireland. People want to dig into their past. They want to dig deep and find things that maybe they think they know or they don't know everything. Maybe the history is architecture. People's passions drive them to travel. So all kinds of reasons. Family, experiences, sharing, stories, storytelling, you name it. That's why people travel. Why Dream Vacations? Because really why specifically with us is we want to unfold that story with you. Why are you traveling? And how do we make that come to life? And how do we make it feel safe, comfortable? We're reassuring. We walk by your side. So it's not a matter of clicking a button or booking something. It's really talking through why am I going? When am I going? Where am I going? And take it from there.
Yeah, and one of my things about podcasts that I really wanted to kind of bring to light about traveling is like talking about making it a big rock and like realizing that creating travel before your calendar shows up really helps like bring a difference to it. Like, how do you help people solve that so that they actually can feel comfortable about planning so far in advance? Because realistically, in this lifetime, in this day and age, it's kind of important to plan it and make sure it's got a timeline around it and it has, affordability behind it. So there's a lot of thought behind that. Like, how do you help people build that big rock? Because we at Keller Williams, it's one of our big things that vacations come first. And that's always been an opposite thought for me. You kind of just scheduled vacations when time showed up.
Yeah.
Now, with corporate world and post-COVID transitions, it's like we got to be really purposeful with vacation because it's important to creating mental health and as well as just connecting, like you said, with past history, life, whatever it is. So how do you do that?
So true. In fact, I have people call every day that are still on that. We're going to plan spring break. And that happened at Thanksgiving, folks. People just don't realize, but I'll give you a real life scenario. This week, I talked to clients who went to Scotland last year with a group. They had an amazing time, and they're looking at possibly retiring overseas. Oh. And they said, well, we're going to go in the spring. We started this conversation probably back in November, and our conversation this week led to 2 days later calling me to say, hey, we want a few more calls. We're going to push back to 27. Because what I instill in people is not that I want to cancel your plan, so to speak, but if you really are thinking Europe, you're thinking Hawaii even, and you haven't planned in advance, it really impacts your budget. People don't realize how expensive travel is and what it takes to save and how to put those plans together. So we have real conversations about who's going. Again, we do a lot of multi-gen trips where grandma's going with, daughter and grands, maybe even great-grands. And those are all lots of schedules. And you don't realize even a trip that I have coming up in April, which is kind of a short turnaround, 7 people, It's a multi-gen, and we don't know if son number 2 is going to come or not yet, but we're trying to plan around. So we're going to make arrangements with the Vatican, the Colosseum, so that they can get there. And that's really a key thing too, is I create relationships, and why Dream Vacations is we've got all the great partnerships over here, preferred partnerships, cruise lines, all the resorts, your, all-inclusive vacations, your river cruises. And then on the Go Vacay Your Way side with Dream Vacations, I get to meet people in Italy and France and London and Germany and create personal ties with them for the sake of my clients. I'm on WhatsApp as much as I'm on chat because I'm talking to people who are on my team in other countries.
Yeah, and so like that's a great thing. Like I just left a trip in Jackson Hole, and I was like, "Hey, I have 2 great contacts for you to like kind of use as later on things." So I'm sure people always bring you opportunities to have further conversations, so that when someone says, "Hey, I want to go do this," you're like, "I already have that in my notebook. Let me go pull that out and connect them."
And domestic trips are the perfect way to do that too. I love getting pictures from my clients when they travel. I love seeing what you're doing so that I can share with others. So yes, even domestic trips, I don't do all, obviously Disney Cruise is local, but I mean, domestic. But, I myself went to Utah and rode a mule in Bryce Canyon, in September. So you got to do some amazing things.
Yeah.
And sharing that helps me help other people.
Yeah, and so what problem did you see in people's life that made this worth building? Like making this Go Vacay Your Way business such a pivotal part for you? Like what problem were you fixing for people?
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to a friend of mine who was a client back when I was at the Charlotte Observer in National Accounts Travel Advertising. And John is going on his 68th safari this year.
60.
He's done Africa safaris for decades. And at the end of the pandemic, or we hoped the end of the pandemic, I realized that marketing was not, your conferences or your golf outings and all that was not really coming back too soon. And I asked John, what do you think about travel? And he said, Angela, there's never going to be more pent-up demand than after this pandemic for travel. And, nothing was sailing. No ship was sailing. We have now dozens of new ships. So opportunity was there. Need, fears. I had worked in travel through 9/11. So back in the day, I realized that people need that reassurance. And traveling yourself as a travel advisor is probably one of the top things you need to do. And like you guys in real estate, you really have to sort through all the details for people. They may have looked at 20 houses, but they don't really know the nuance of why I'm looking at this house versus that neighborhood and all of those things. So I really parallel with a lot of things that you guys do because it's details. They want to make sure they don't miss the details. Trains, planes, automobiles, how do I get there? Even if it's the minivan, at Disney World, how does that make my trip easier?
So you're removing confusion from the processing and really helping someone get super clear pathways to making a trip super successful, because sounds like to me you can run into a lot of problems pretty quickly and and make the experience maybe a little more challenging to get to something. So having you as a resource really seems to help make that flow just kind of automatic for you and you don't have to think as much while you're relaxing, right?
People are detailed. And another reason people use us, our clients are time deprived. Yourself, parent,
know nothing
busy
about that.
business person. You've got all the commitments, your volunteer time, your leadership time. And you need somebody who's got your back. And that's really what it's about. Not that you couldn't plan your trip on your own and it wouldn't be great. You also give yourself a little more grace. Before I was a travel agent, we went to Rome. We missed a flight.
Oh.
They shut the gate down and said the tower's not allowing anyone in. So you can't change things, and then the panic sets in. Right. So not that my clients call me from the gate that's just closed, but sometimes they do. And we're able to work that out and bring a sense of calm to them that we've planned this. Everything's going to be fine. But I do say traveling is an adventure, not always a vacation. It depends on what you're choosing.
Yeah, sometimes it can be pretty challenging to get to place, especially in other countries. What does running a business like this look like day to day? Like what's your day to day processes, and like how are you finding clients, or what's it look like for you to run a like
Well,
things that no one ever sees in the background. You
Yeah.
know, all the things we do, like we like to say in real estate, there's 120 different tasks we do on one transaction, and people are like, "Oh, you're just a realtor. You don't do much. You just smile and sell houses." And
You're
like,
driving
"Oh,
that
cute."
nice car and dropping people
the
off
whole
back in
thing's
the day,
selling
right?
Sunset. You know,
Yeah.
no big deal.
Long hours. I start early. I end late. I've got a fantastic family that supports what I do. And I really dig into details. I have a team. I have an assistant that helps part-time. Also besides just the fun of planning, you've got all the back paperwork, and that's where a Dream Vacations comes in some. They
Right.
can handle some of your back office, but no one can really face the client like I can or like you can. So it really takes organization. I learned back when I was in, again, the Charlotte Observer or corporate life, deadlines are what separates me as well. I will meet a deadline. I'm going to do what I say I'm
Unafraid
going
to
to
get
do. What'd you say?
Unafraid to get there.
Yeah. I mean, it takes a lot, and it's keeping notes and keeping track of notes. And we have a current projects list. I've got a process. I've got a form from day one that starts with, here's our easy travel form. I'd like for you to commit to send me those details, whether it's domestic or abroad. We ask for details like your passport information if you're traveling abroad. So we know, do we need to help you with that? Or is that something you've already taken care of? Your children's information. If I'm booking Disney, I'm going to need their dates of birth, all these things. So very detail oriented. Rely on teams, again, both in Dream Vacations with my team, associates that also sell for me. So, and then all of the network of tour operators that are across the world that serve me. And how do I get business? People like yourself. We are referral partners. Personal relationships make a huge difference for me. This year alone, I'm working with family, friends, past clients, new clients. So I'm blessed.
Yeah, so it's systems, tools, people that really help you drive your business in the day to day, and then really your ability to follow up and create the relationships through SOI. What surprised you the most? Like once you were in this and you're like, I've committed to this business of travel support and travel agency, like what were you like, wait a minute, I don't know about this, or like what caught you off guard?
Working with those closest to me. I've had a marketing agency for 26 years now. I started in December of 2000. And fast forward when I still have that agency, but as I transition to travel, I work more closely with people I know every day, and I have to show up to those people. So when you have to answer to the people that you're in front of every day, and they're not some, headphone somewhere on a call room, they're real. And they're expecting that they're going to take a trip, and you are helping them with it. So, there's no more joy than when they come back and it's just everything and more that they, expected from that first or 50th trip, I say. But boy, when it gets dicey and they're, everybody's boarding the train at the same time, or somebody forgot something at the hotel or got sick on the way to the Vatican,
They're more willing to tell you all the ugly stuff than the.
Oh yeah, you definitely get the ugly first, even the closest of people. So and I love it all. I love hearing it. It's just in the end, travel brings joy. So I know the end of the equation, something positive is going to be coming out of it, but it's a lot. It's a lot of detail.
What do clients feel with that detail that you stay so detailed oriented with? Like, what do they feel when they work with you that they wouldn't get, like going and doing it on their own? So like you said earlier, I can go book a trip to Jackson Hole, or I can book a trip to Germany, certainly. But what do I get? Like, what's the difference for you, from me to you,
I think
or like
it
doing
goes,
it myself?
Yeah. Well, you can definitely book your own travel. There are a lot of DIYers out there, and you'll never know what it's like if you don't use a travel advisor because you're comfortable with that. I say you're more forgiving of yourself when and I learned that. I learned, we all work from pain points, right? In the world of business, that the reason you seek out a professional is because I really can't change my oil. And I don't want to change a tire on the side of the road.
Right.
I want AAA to come help me, even if it's going to take 45 minutes. But there is that getting to know process. Even if I know you very well, I'm going to have to get that information again and go through the process. But once we have that, then it's like, Adam, the kids are getting a little bit older. Now what? What are you thinking for 27, 28, that 10th birthday? We do graduation trips. Again, those happy celebrations. that what's different is you might just be looking at rates, honestly, because people who plan for themselves are really thinking, what's my budget? How can I afford to travel? And they end up, having a great time, but they don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they could have that a 3-star hotel in Italy is probably what you're going to end up wanting to look at, as opposed to the 4 and 5 stars that is the Marriott life in America. We don't really look to the Marriott life in Italy. We want you to have that boutique experience that's affordable, but right where you can have great views. The same for France. Paris is an expensive place to go, but there are some really great places that you can stay that are not going to kill your budget. And if you don't know that, that's what I hear from clients all the time is, I didn't know. Even I'm working with some of the most detailed people that I've ever run life with.
Right.
And they've come back to me and said, wow, you've given me a run for my experience, because they know how to do the research. But there's something about it, whether it's that local train or the ferry they wanted to take, that the time needs to be a certain place. Oh, I don't have to get there the day before for my flight because it's a 20-minute train ride. But it's all that navigation, really, especially when you start traveling with people who are younger and older than yourself, then you really want that support. But I've got clients who've been around the world and back, and they just love the service. They love having me reassure them, and they don't want to do it anymore. And those are the best of clients. Like, here, this is what I want. This is when I want to go, and let's
get it
partnership.
Done. So what I hear is knowledge is really the biggest thing, and then obviously the knowledge of how to create a curated relation, like an experience that's just different than I can go and stay in a regular hotel and certainly get a great experience. However, this could be a top tier experience, but at the same cost. Is that kind of right?
Realistically, let's talk about budget. So I just tell people right up front, if you're going to Europe with 2 people, you're going to spend between $10,000 and $12,000. If that number scares you, then you probably need to wait or think about what you might want to do on your own, because time is value. And if you spend so many hours and you can't find what you want, where I can go to my sources that are tried and true and say, here's this might, and I've had this happen. Angela, I feel like this hotel in Florence is a splurge for us, but it's our 10th anniversary. We're going to give it a go, and we're good with the cutback over here in Sorrento. Fast forward, the trip's over. That hotel in Florence was the best decision that we made.
Right.
The view, the experience, the proximity, you're right in town. You can walk to the Duomo. You're going to see just iconic moments that you might have not missed if you had to wake up 30 minutes outside of, Firenze and get a train, and you don't know what the heck. I call it the Amazing Race. Sometimes clients want to book the Amazing Race or plan it themselves. And if you've never watched the show, give it a whirl. They have to do some dicey things
to get there on time.
I wouldn't want to be under that pressure on my first trip.
Yeah, I can agree, and hearing that expertise and knowledge really changes how I would think about the way you would vacation, and just making sure you're planning that. And so financially, you just want to make sure you're prepped for what you want to do, and then making sure that those are the other big rocks. So there's a financial big rock of making sure you've got the budget ready, and then there's the other big rock of picking out the time that best fits your family. I wanted to talk and switch a little bit into mindset for you, and a little bit about you as a business person and a business owner. Where was there a moment when quitting would have just made sense in traveling, and you're you know what, I'm kind of over it a little bit, or this is really tough, and I'm kind of rather just not do this. Was there a moment where you were just I'm good?
So far in the travel business, I haven't had that moment. I have had that challenge of I'm working with someone that I know has high expectations. Am I going to be able to meet those expectations the way that they would have me meet them? And so that's given me pause. Usually I come out of it with a consult call to someone I know that says, hey, remember that trip you took to France? Can we talk about it for a minute? I've got some clients that are going or wherever, Germany. This is why having local people is the key, because I can call these people and talk to them and say, is this real? When you see something on a map, and you try to convince a client that what they're going to experience is not on that map. They can't see the twists and turns in Ireland. They can't see the shoulder dropped off. They can't see, what they can't see. And renting a car isn't always the best of decisions when you've got your family's life in their hands. So I think it's that shortness of breath when you hear something that might not be completely realistic, that you're going to have to give some bad news, just like you do, I'm sure. Like, the price isn't really what we talked about originally.
Yeah.
We have a couple of concessions coming in. We want to talk about those. So, and they're generally fine in the end. They understand, hey, I shouldn't have chose Milan and Sorrento. Milan pairs, it's like wines.
Yeah.
Milan pairs well with Venice. And Milan pairs well possibly with Florence. Not so much, Tuscany, or not, parts of Tuscany, but not so much Sicily.
Right.
Where you're getting on another island. So I think it's all management of the conversation. So, of course, there's doubts regularly, but...
So in those doubts, what helped you overcome the doubt? Like, what made you feel like, all right, I did this, I've created this experience, I know they're going to go there and have a great time? Was it just like the confidence behind what people are giving you as information, or like what really helped you say, I'm delivering the best experience, I know that they're going to be happy when they're done?
Having been to places.
Having gone there and done it.
And not just that specific place, but having been to enough places and having those people, again, locally that I can rely on to say, okay, I've been down the Champs-Élysées and I know this happens. What are your thoughts on this? There are also, I give my clients homework. So I am not hired to do everything. I don't have to go to the toilet with you, as they call it in Europe. No offense, but I can tell you, toilets in Europe are not on the main level. You're going to go down a small staircase. You're going to go up a small staircase.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you homework from day one to say, hey, watch a YouTube video on this, where your train station is. How do you get into that train station? How do regional trains and local trains work differently? Let me handle the high-speed trains, get you from one big city to the other. And if you really want that DIY nuance of where I want to go between Lisbon and Porto that was really off track, you take that and you own it. So, or come back to me and say, okay, I owned it, but can you help me?
Yeah, or I don't think I really want to do that.
Yes, and that's
that was
a lot.
little bit of much. Like,
Yeah.
I thought I wanted to.
Yes.
Now I can see why you're telling me that I can't make this all happen in less than 48 hours.
No, yes. I normally say if you're planning a trip abroad, it's 6, 8, 12 months, depending on the location. For a variety of reasons. We look at holidays. We look at U.S. holidays for the flight patterns. You don't want to go out on a holiday. People don't even think, oh, that's when I'm off, so let's go.
Yeah.
And then, 10 million of your friends are at the airport at the same time.
Like, and paying for it, too.
Yes.
Yeah. So, when with the travel agency, and I know the 2000s were probably a good time to talk about this a little bit, but like when motivation wasn't there, what actually kept you going to like keep finding your sphere and keep building this big business that you've built around travel? Like, what was that like for you? Like, what do you use to drive motivation to get you to continue to do travel? Because I know customer service industries are always exhausting.
Yeah, it is.
And so you hit walls of just exhaustion or tiredness, or like, do you plan your own vacations around those times, or like what are your ways of like helping you stay motivated in the travel industry and staying as an expert, because there's so much that evolves over time?
Well, I love being in business and I love talking about business, and sometimes that gets in the way of people don't know how to react when you really do want to talk about your work. But that said, I'd say training comes in, because I can pause and then dig a little bit deeper, whether it's more the basics of how the cruise, everybody thinks a cruise is a cruise is a cruise.
Right.
But what's that nuance too? And I kind of take off that intense, personalized, we call it FIT travel, where you're just in the thick of it all the time, and maybe look at river cruises or partner with my BDMs at my tour companies so that we can build relationships. So when I need a break, I have a conversation with somebody who went somewhere great. We have coffee, we have wine, we talk about, education is a big part of what I want to do and do on a regular basis. And then give back, volunteering. I've worked with the Shepherd Center. I do a lot of senior work because they are my clients as well, retirees. So building relationships with people of all ages is really how I
So you
feel
get the
my soul.
variety. So you get the variety.
Yeah.
So basically, what I'm hearing is you like to. All right, I've done enough of the France and the Europe for a little while. Like, let me go hang out with one of my clients that potentially likes to go ice fishing, just so I can hear something completely
Yes.
ridiculously different.
Yeah.
Or just, hey, I want to go play golf in another, 5 different rounds in 4 different places, and you're like, okay, I can have a revamp of feeling better. Or I've done 50 cruises and I'm ready to just switch
yeah.
off of the cruise and talk about something different.
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear that. I'm the same way. I was like, all right, I've done condos for a while. I'm ready to let's talk some
Let's
land
switch it up.
a little bit. Or like we've done a lot of sellers last year, so let's do some buyers. Like it's fun time to have some fun with showing people around
How
and
do
being a
you,
concierge.
again, back to you with that, how do you refresh yourself? And is it that way? Or who are some of your mentors that you go to and just or people that you can kind of just be yourself with? And
Yeah, I think it's the same thing. It's like just getting back to the friends, or like the trip I just took was a nice little refresher. But we're pretty purposeful about the quarterly trips. Those are my things. Like running in Charleston was another one that I just did.
Oh, cool.
Do the Cooper River Bridge run.
yeah,
So that's always a good one. And then obviously Disney's coming up. So we pre-planned this year pretty heavily.
Yeah.
We're hoping to see some more at the end of the year, but that's really the same way. It's just finding that.
not
deep-
everyone does what you do. I mean,
No.
some do and some
I
don't.
recommend it highly. And that's why I think having a partner like you, Angela, is definitely important too. We call it building a team, right? And like, you don't really realize that team can help you create the longevity that you want in the lifespans. They help create the release. Everyone says, well, with Chat GPT and AI now, it's like, hey, I never knew that you could go in there and say, hey, this is I work 9 to 5. And by the way, can you help me tell me the best days off to take so that I can maximize the number of days off in the year and like take the best vacations? Well, then you go. You're like, all right, here, I can send this out to somebody, and like leverage that. So I encourage people to like try to think of different ways to like find the ways to put the rocks in. And I really lived off of the One Thing book for that
Right.
because it talks about the big rocks and the river flowing. And if you have the rocks already there when the river starts to flow throughout the calendar year, it's much simpler to play small rocks or smaller vacations or trips or relaxing points. It's so much harder to go and throw that big rock in the middle of where you're already a running river and make it make sense and fit in and curate to your time, or it feels like you don't get enough days away from the vacation, because there's always a little bit of that break after the break that you still need built in to recover too.
You do. Vacation is exhausting sometimes. You use the word rocks a lot. And it's
Yeah.
funny, I do that too, even with clients. And I'm like, we need to get the big rocks in place.
Yeah.
We set the date parameters. Is that really firm? You keep saying August, but we need to know which days in August because hotel rates are different on the 2nd versus the 14th.
Right.
And so when you get those big rocks in place, and that might be the dates, that might be the airline, then are we going direct? Are we going to have, layovers? And then again, additional. I also relate it to putting a puzzle together.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get 2, 3, 4 pieces that work. Set those aside. You get the edges that are kind of like those big rocks.
Right.
And then you kind of like, okay, here's this one really cool piece that we've got to fit in here. And it's got to happen on a certain day. So sometimes you build around a date. How are we going to get to this place at this time? Versus we'll get there. We don't have to make it that day. So that it's the rocks are the puzzle, but I use those analogies all the time.
You said you were marketing in the past, and then you've moved into travel. What did you have to become to build this business? Like, what did you have to do to become the expert, or was it just something that naturally showed up for you because you loved travel already?
Good question. Really, that was the thing. I think some people think, "Oh, I love to travel. I'm going to become a travel advisor," and they start that booking. What can I do to book something? For me, the marketing really helped me with this because I knew how much it took to put something together. What's a campaign or how to get a message out there, what the creative, pieces behind it were. The harder parts were, what are the logistics of actually booking something? Because when I book something, I don't necessarily book directly all the time. Sometimes it has to go through this portal or that portal. Then how do I get paid in the end, right? It's not the same. It's like the first thing that's important is to get the client taken care of.
Yeah.
The next thing is to make sure that it gets in the systems that can be reported, followed, tracked so that you can really delegate. If you keep everything in your own head, which that's easy to do as business owner, our ongoing checklist, it falls back to us. So I think getting those systems out there and and figuring those out. AI is great for that. ChatGPT is an excellent tool. It's how you use it. Not everybody even realizes how it can be used. And I've heard that too, like, oh, well, I can plan a whole trip on ChatGPT, and you sure can.
Yeah.
Now, whether those places will be open when you get there, or
Accurately stated.
Exactly. It's great, but you will never take the need for people out of people things.
Yeah.
And I think that's huge.
And that's true. So like, you run an amazing travel agency business, and there's probably travel agents who will listen to this podcast. What would you tell them helped you be the most organized? Was it the people you lined with? Was it the dream vacations part? Was it that helped you really get to truly a focused area? Because I'm sure there's someone listening to this and they're going, wow, she runs such an amazing business. She's telling me, just changing to a different type of part of her business is helping her stay energized. I feel exhausted. I'm up in the air. I'm working too many nights, and I thought this was a 40-hour job, and it's really an 80-hour job. Like, what would you tell them if they're in a little bit of a messiness?
Yeah, and if everybody's traveling, why isn't my phone ringing?
Right.
That's really part of when you're first getting started. So what I'd say is, it is, again, for me, people. When I got into Dream Vacations, of course, Dream Vacations was appealing because they are a marketing machine. They know that we're owned by World Travel Holdings, a massive company, and Dream Vacations is the top franchise-based travel company. So a lot of us are former corporate people or people who have been entrepreneurs who have worn a lot of hats. But there are a lot of teasers out there now in the world because travel is so popular of like, hey, join and be an easy travel agent for $50 a month. And there's no support, there's not training, there's not a brand. Even if there is a brand, it's like, how do I do? And that's why everybody gets, for lack of a better sense, Mouse Ears Travel. And 3 years from there, they realize, oh, Mouse Ears Travel isn't serving me well because I do more than Disney. So I think a lot of it is just conversations. Business plan is important. So when you go back to marketing and business 101, do you have a business plan? Is it written down? I'm sure if somebody I know is watching this that I've had conversations with, they will say, there she goes again. Business plan, marketing plan.
Right.
And doing a lot of marketing consulting as I've done, even up to the pandemic, business owners, again, they're set in their mind of what they know and what they think their business needs until you interject almost like a third person in your partnership to say, this is the person who's going to be listening to our little arguments and saying, here's another idea. So if you're a new travel agent or if you're somebody who's looking to get into travel, definitely dig a little deeper, scratch beneath the surface, as they say, because there's a lot there. Why are you doing it? Is it because you like to travel and you want to get deals? Okay, well, there's a category of business for that. I'm actually growing a team, and I'm looking for people who love to travel, but they also dig deep. I have clients who press me all the time. Hey, did you think about this? And I can't do every single minute that you do. So if you love hiking up to the top of the mountain at 3 a.m. to see the northern lights and make sure it's at this, right, that's you.
Right.
I'm making sure that you get there safely, securely, reinforce, hey, now if you do that, let's talk about trip protection. Let's talk about, what you need for the, the journey. Do you have the right shoes? Are we talking about, all these things? So there are some roads that people take getting into travel.
Yeah, it seems easy. It seems like you could it's almost like they like to pick on realtors and say, oh, well, you can go get a license for 90 hours and everybody's got it and all this other stuff. But then you look up and there's not everyone can run a business at a high level. So yeah, I think I hear what you're saying for sure is you've got to kind of find your why. What's yours?
My people. My why is my people. It's my clients. It's my family that are my clients and friends. It's my support team. My why is just people and faith and everything that's brought me to this point.
Yeah.
A lot of lifting up. I mean, there are a lot of creative people, more than smart, savvy travelers. These are people in my Rolodex back from the day that I would never sacrifice because they support me personally, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah, it's having a why is definitely a good reason to run the business, and for travel especially, and someone that's looking to do it. They I think to me, it's always like I say, you've got to have a deep enough purpose or passion to really drive that. So we talked a lot about your business. We talked a little bit about the running a business. What's a way? How can people connect with you specifically to figure out like I've heard this podcast today and I'm just like I need travel in my life, or I want to work with Dream Vacations, or as you said, you're trying to grow your business. Who's an ideal kind of, what does that look like? And like how do they find you first, and then how can you connect? How can they connect with you?
Sure. I'm all about a conversation. So this Behind the Key, really cool that you're opening doors for people.
Yeah.
So thank you again. But it really starts with a conversation. So whether you want to travel, whether you love to talk about where you've been, I'm at apope.dreamvacations.com, and easier than that, because I even stumble through it, govacayourway.com. And I'm on social channels at Go Vacay Your Way, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Angela B. Pope. Really, if you just Google Go Vacay Your Way or Dream Vacations, Angela Pope, any of that, you'll find me.
Yeah, and you can always find it through the Queen City Sellers team too. If we
Yes.
obviously needed to connect, I can always throw it out your way. Angela, what's one thing you'd like to leave with the people that are checking out this podcast today? And like, what's the last thing you'd like to close out with?
Yeah, don't, again, I guess don't is a negative, but fear can overcome us, right? And even the fear of being in an audience or a conversation that you're not sure, you have no idea where it's going to go. Trust is the opposite of that. And that is trust that someone's going to be by your side, be there for you, help you see the world, or help you just see something that's not your backyard. And I'd love to have that conversation with you, whether it's about travel today or last year, or where you want to go in life. So that's probably it. Just take your fears to trust and have a conversation.
I love that. Take your fears to trust and have a conversation. Well, I'm going to take that away from today. I'm Adam Sellers with the Queen City Sellers team. You can find me at queencitysellers.com. And thank you again, Angela, for the second episode of Behind the Key, which I'm really loving. And I look forward to more connections, and go vacay your way. And I can't wait for my trip in Disney. So
Yes,
the cruise is
I
like,
can't either.
We're fired up. So
Great. Thank you
thanks
so much, Adam.
Angela.
Pleasure.